Welcome back, everybody, to Who Really Won the Wrestling War. We're in month 3, podcast 3, but talking March 1989, Fan Guy. So far, 2 thumbs down from Fan Guy.
Thumbs down for March, bro.
So far, WWF has been kicking WCW's ass, and I don't know if that's going to stop anytime soon, to be honest, but... yeah. Any first thoughts other than the thumbs down?
Nah, just most months I think we're going to notice a trend where if you have a month that doesn't have pay-per-views, it's probably going to be a somewhat down month overall. And I think this one follows suit, and particularly for WCW, there's just not a lot of redeeming stuff going around there. So
there certainly is not. There is going to come a year. I don't know if it's 1990 or 1991, but I'm pretty sure WCW is the company that is the first to have a pay-per-view every month.
That will help them.
Yeah.
Because they put on good matches. They just, I don't know, man. It feels like and both shows are kind of doing this. And it feels different than today's wrestling, because like today's wrestling, each Raw, SmackDown, like AEW, Dynamite, it's each show can tell its own story. And I feel like almost every show that isn't a pay-per-view or that like Saturday night's main event, it's all building up the same stuff. So essentially you'll have like 4 shows in a month and it's all the same thing over and over and over. And it feels like it just kind of drags on for me.
Yeah, I don't really think the TV is going to change much until the Monday Night Wars, but unless we do ECW, then they had some. They might have been the first to actually start telling stories on shows. Well, I guess let's see where to even start with WCW this month. I mean, the first question I was going to ask, even though I already know your answer, your thoughts on them putting Rick Steiner with Eddie Gilbert?
I mean, okay, like I said, my thoughts on this haven't changed. If you've watched the last 2 podcasts, I'm not a fan of just smashing together singles wrestlers for the sake of getting them on the air. I get it from a production standpoint. You have so many people you're trying to highlight. You got to do it. And they had a little bit of a funny promo on one of these shows because Rick Steiner, when he does his Eugene thing, is pretty funny. So, I mean, it's a weird team for me. I don't get it, but generic good guy tag team.
By the end of the month, though, they did beat Varsity Club to become the U.S. Tag Team Champions, even. So,
yeah, the match, it just doesn't. I don't even know how to explain it. Like those two, just personality wise, and you have Scott Steiner joining the fray, so it makes even less sense to me that they would do that. Like you could have put it on Gilbert and like maybe Hayes or just something like that if you wanted to go that way.
Well, I do hope people listening are following along. I think April might be a good month to definitely follow along. We got WrestleMania going up against a Clash of Champions on the same night. But another thing WCW is failing at is actually building to Clash of Champions. They have Flair and Steamboat. Nothing else has been announced.
No, it just feels like those two are going to have to strap their backpacks on, load it with all the heavy weight, and continue to carry that company because, you could see some shine, a few flashes out of Luger here and there. He does some okay promo work. Still got a couple good heels with the Wyndham boys. But other than that, man. And you got the Varsity Club, but as we talk about every week, that's just a mishmash itself.
I don't like the Varsity Club.
But they'll pay you $10,000 if you could beat Mike Rotunda in 10 minutes.
Yes, that is their new gimmick. They're like 20 gimmicks in one.
Yeah, bro. They're like, I could see like the writers, if they even had writers back then, I don't even know, but I could totally see the room being like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's do have them charge give $10,000 someone can beat him, and someone else is like, oh, we got to beat him in 10 minutes or less, and they're just like, well, let's just put all the ideas onto one plate, and they really overloaded it. But it's WCW. My expectations at this point are rock bottom.
Yeah. I really do fear that this next clash is going to be a bunch of squash matches again, like the last one kind of was.
That was the worst Clash of Champions I've ever seen. Where were the champions clashing?
True. Did
Like,
not live up to its name. Now, one thing, and I will give props to WCW for one thing, well, a couple things, but this one, so something that has worked for WWF over the years is we had Piper's Pit, now we got Brother Love, and they're now giving Paul E an interview show on HTV. So at least that's something to look forward to.
The Danger Zone, straight out of Top Gun. Yeah, and Paulie's good. He can carry his own segments. I mean, he, the three I saw, he played them perfectly. He had Flair on first. Kind of did the heel rapport thing, kind of, two scumbags talking each other up. And then he kind of pulls a Bobby the Brain on Junkyard Dog and on Luger, kind of like, the backhanded slaps. So yeah, no, I agree. I think WCW really needed this just to break up the monotony of squash match, and most of them featuring guys we don't care about, like Dick Murdoch
or a random mask guy number 7. Did you happen to catch the Varsity Club interview on the March 4th?
I believe I did.
Oh, it was so weird. I feel like everybody did a line of coke before that interview.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, and Spivey's yelling, and then Dr. Death out of nowhere just starts breakdancing for no reason.
Yes.
Like, what?
They probably did. That was very notorious during that time period. So it would not surprise me if they did exactly what you referenced. Spivey's something else, bro. Every time he opens his mouth, like, all I think of is like the most generic wrestler interview guy ever. Like I said it last week, same thing. I'm just gonna talk real loud and say whatever comes to my mind, even though I have nothing to say. I'm just gonna talk like this, and that's Dan Spivey for you. Yeah, and then you got a lot of people breakdancing. Yeah, Dr. Death. What the F? I was expecting that from Patriot Vincent.
Yeah.
Breaking with the Junkyard Dog, busting on through the Boogaloo. But yeah, bro, the Varsity Club for me is a mess, honestly. Just a mess.
It is. I'm hoping they're coming to an end soon. I feel like this is their last year, but I hope it is.
I think it is, and it should be. Let's get on to the Circus of Terror or whatever they became next, because that's far better than.
Yeah, and they even gave old guy, what's his name? I forgot his name. The leader, Sullivan. They gave Sullivan a whistle in one of these matches. I was like, oh, could they get any more annoying?
Let's just, I mean, it almost feels like they're tryharding, like in really obnoxious ways. Like they know they're getting smashed by WWF, but they haven't quite figured out the formula yet. Like they're taking the right step with the Danger Zone. They have a few guys, and like Flair and Steamboat that can carry the weight for a little while. They got guys like Sting coming up, but they just haven't figured out the formula, man. They just haven't. Like,
yeah, they haven't. The other thing I did like though during this month was the Michael Hayes turning heel. He was kind of getting pissed off at his music not being played was one of the first things. And then eventually he takes Matsuda's money, turns on Luger. And I do think Hayes makes for a better heel anyway, even though he's a charismatic guy, so he could be a face. But
I could not agree more. I could not possibly agree anymore. Hayes is a much better heel. I mean, he's got that swagger of like a even like The Rock. Like there's a lot of guys that are just such tweeners that they can play face, heel, and basically play the same character either way. Just, be a little bit more of a dick when you're a heel, a little bit more of like the anti-hero when you're a face. And so no, Hayes is gonna make that transition seamless. And yeah, man, the Freebirds were heels. Hayes is a heel, man, at his heart. And this was good. That I agree with you. That was another positive, I think, because they need some.
Yeah. Other than the Danger Zone, I think this was the only other thing they got right.
Great Muda. I was glad to see him.
Oh, yeah, true.
That dude is an absolute legend. So it was really cool to see his debut. Looking way different than he's going to have an evolution of look. Because
He looks great right now, though. He looks so different than everybody else without this face paint.
Yeah, it was just different than what I know of as the Great Muda. It's like, whoa. And you could tell he was just a guy they got from overseas. It's just an amazing wrestler. He's gonna I think he's gonna help WCW as well. And he fits with Matsuda better than the rest. I mean, I'm not even trying to be like that, but it just they work better.
He also has Gary Hart too, which he needs because he needs someone that could talk for him.
Agreed.
Speaking of overseas, though, we have Steamboat overseas for most of these TV shows, which is kind of a bummer for the main feud as well, because I mean that is their main feud, the only feud they're building for this Clash of Champions. Yet he's overseas.
I couldn't even tell you another match. I mean, they might be trying to do something with Hayes and Luger.
I guess, yeah.
But other than that, yeah, and even that, I mean, like, and even that's getting kind of old because he's saying the same stuff. Like, I'm a family man. Ric Flair's a playboy. We're just two different people. I'm just ready for something new.
Yeah, already. It needs a pivot.
Yeah,
I do like Flair slowly losing his mind, though, which is kind of what's happening since he lost the title.
Mm-hmm. And we actually got to see him in action in a squash match or two this month, which for superstars of that caliber, a lot of times you don't get to see, or that they haven't been using him that way at all. So I like seeing that, but yeah, man, WCW. Whew. I don't have a lot of nice things to say about WCW this particular month. I really don't. And I mean, I
don't either.
I wasn't able to watch it as intently as I have the last few months, but I almost didn't feel bad about it.
I mean, it wasn't worth it anyway.
No, bro. As I'm skimming it through a lot of it, I'm like, nope, I'm okay. I'm okay missing this.
Like I'm trying to just pick out the positives. Like I also like the touch of Flair bringing up the Luger feud, because at the end of their feud, he said he's never gonna wrestle Luger again. He's never gonna get a shot at the title. But Flair lost his title, and now he wants a shot at Luger's title. Yeah, so that was a nice touch.
Yeah, and there are that coming up with little loopholes and creative things like that. Yes, 100%, and it'll get those two in the ring together again because they have good matches, and we can't. Although I think it's going to be a lot of Steamboat Flair, I know there's going to be a lot of Luger mixed in there too. I think Luger takes them both on at different points this year, actually.
I guess one last thing, I really don't know what else to talk about for this month of WCW, but we had the debut of Ranger Ross, who I guess is here to be the American to take on the Iron Sheik. We're going with the old, tired WWF storyline.
And they have busting on through the Electric Boogaloo Patriot. They already got one. You don't need Ranger Ross.
I mean, I guess I could have a line of Patriots for Iron Sheik to beat.
Yeah, everybody who wears an American flag's going down to the Sheik until I don't know. So the Ultimate Patriot comes along. It's probably gonna have to be like Luger or Steamboat or somebody like that.
Yeah, true. And I know I teased that we might have a European here this week. Not so much. Maybe next week. I'm still trying to get a foreign heel on the show, since everybody foreign on these shows are heels. Anything else for WCW?
No, bro. I am not impressed, quite frankly, with WCW. That they just when I think it couldn't go down for me in my brain, I even tried to be softer on them last week, and I was like, oh, I'll cut them some slack. I'll raise their grade a little bit. It's got to trend up. Just when you think it can't get any worse, it finds a way to. Although, as you said, it had redeeming moments. It had a few. Ultimately, this is not that entertaining.
I would not describe it as entertaining at all. I did look it up because I wanted to see when George Scott got fired, and he got fired right after this next Clash because once
Oh,
again
no
he did
kidding?
not promote the Clash of Champions. So
Yeah, so this one's probably gonna suck really bad too then.
that's unfortunately that seems to be the case, but at least he'll be gone, and I hope the booking committee that begins with JR at the top of it will get better.
Touche.
Well, what did you end up giving WCW this month?
WCW, I have at a 6.5, and I felt generous giving them that.
Yeah, still nicer than me, I guess. I just left it the same. I didn't give him an F, even though I considered it. I just left it at a 6.0 D. D minus even to boot. That is its lowest grade yet. Probably deserved.
Oh, that's absolutely deserved.
On to the WWF. Let's see. The March 6th show. I mean, I guess the biggest. What was that?
Show this month.
Oh, yeah, by far. I think the biggest thing on this show was that, well, there's a few, but the biggest thing was we got to see the $1 million belt, which we talked about last week, but Ted DiBiase revealed his $1 million title at this show.
Yes, he did. It looks more rinky-dink than I thought it did. I remember when I was growing up the first time I saw it, it looked so majestic and like so awesome. And then I saw it on this one and I was like,
is that really $1 million?
Yeah, I was like, boy, nostalgia. It really does something to your memory.
It does.
Shining, like, oh. And it's just like, okay. That looks like you just, Toys R Us, aisle 3, $1 million belt.
It does. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the continued push for Rude.
Yep.
He's the one that's beating all of the other just the mainer talent. He's getting wins over people that are names.
Yeah. Even if it's not all clean wins and stuff, they're definitely trying to build him up. I think they're just trying to build him up as a credible challenger for Warrior's title. Because Warrior, who we didn't see much this month at all, I don't think.
No, we didn't.
He's been billed as such just a monster that I think whoever you're going to try to put him against, you have to give him a lot of street cred, or else the anticipation just won't even be there.
Yeah, I agree. And like we talked about last week, I do think Rude wins a match against him at some point, even though there's shenanigans with Heenan. I just don't know when.
I can mentally see it. Heenan's going to hold the Warriors' ropes, like hold the Warriors' feet down, or hold Rude's feet down on the ropes. It's going to.
It might be this match, but I don't know for sure.
It was a big deal. And I read an interesting stat this week, randomly, that the Ultimate Warrior is the only wrestler to never get pinned clean.
Wow, that's ever? Even against, I feel like he lost against Hogan in WCW clean.
I have read something that said he's like the only person who doesn't have clean losses. Like everyone else has clean losses. Like all of Warriors has some shenanigans going on.
Well, they certainly protected them.
Yeah, looks like it. And yeah.
Another thing I want to mention about the Hogan Macho Man feud is I do like how we get each point of view in this story. And during their promos, they show things from each point of view, even if they pretend Macho Man is skewed, even though it's really not that skewed.
Yeah. I mean, they're still painting it for me a little bit. I would like to see Savage personally be painted a little bit more neutral here rather than going full on heel mode, because I feel like, I don't know, this was one of those turns, like you got to turn him heel at least to a degree, but it just felt too rushed for me almost. I would have rather see a little bit more of a progression. And I still think that at this point in time, he still should have some face tendencies, but I think they're just like, Hogan's the good guy, so we're just like, let's make Savage go over the top on the other end. And that's my only problem with the feud.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If Hogan's involved, the hill's going to be a hill, unfortunately, no matter what, even though Hogan has hill qualities himself.
Until Hogan's wearing the white and black. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
going to eat his vitamins and say his prayers.
Well, we'll talk about Saturday night's main event, which I actually thought was a good show. I don't know about you, but I thought there was just a lot of action and a lot of storyline. Now there's booking problems I have, but I did enjoy the show as a whole.
I agree. It was actually for me the only show on either side that in a lot. I mean, the weird thing about WWF, right, is that even they don't have to rely on their wrestling. Like brains carry in a lot of the primetime segments just when they're not happy. It's not in ring action. That's a lot of the most entertaining stuff from WWF is the stuff that's not happening in the ring. So, um, to have them put on a show that features their in-ring stuff the way this Saturday night did, it was good because they need at least a little bit of that to match all their out of ring goodness.
Yeah, and all the matches on this show were high paced. They were just all action, and that's why I enjoyed them. We'll start
Yep.
with Rick Rude versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake. We've seen this match on Prime Time before, but I think this match kind of just it helped all of Heenan's men's feuds in a way because we had Andre come out and then Jake came out and then they beat on Jake, they beat on Brutus. That was kind of, and then Big John Studd comes out and he gets in Andre's face.
Kind of setting that up for the future, yeah. Or kind of setting up him to do some shady ref stuff at Mania. Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. The sole purpose of this was to combine several feuds into one segment, move them along, which I think they did. Andre sells his fear of that snake so good. Like I am truly impressed by how, because Andre the Giant's not, the notoriously the best seller of all time, but I don't know if he's really fucking scared of that snake.
Maybe he is.
But he sells the shit out of being scared of that snake. So, just watching him do that was awesome. The match between Rude and Beefcake was okay too, considering Beefcake's not a great in-ring technician. That it was actually an okay match. And then I was okay with this finish. I don't really know how they gave Beefcake the win because I don't I remember them saying the winner is Brutus the Barber Beefcake, but I don't remember. There wasn't a count out, there wasn't a DQ, there wasn't a pin, so I don't really know how that match ended.
Yeah, I don't. I just remember.
I just thought it was awkward that they're like the winner by nothing, but because we say so.
Yeah, they do some weird things in the WWF with their finishes because there've been some DQs that they count as count outs because I mean someone's getting beat on the getting beat on the outside and they're counting to 10 still. I'm like, okay,
the manager just came out and is hitting this other wrestler. The ref is watching it, and we're not getting a DQ, but they're still counting them out.
Yeah, I am wondering if this was actually just a big rib on Andre, this storyline. Maybe he really is afraid of snakes because he is kind of selling that fear.
That you can't fake that kind of fear in that man.
And he takes off. He takes off fast for a big guy.
Yeah. He almost tumbles over the ropes every time. He's like, Rrr. And so that was the highlight of that part for me, was watching Andre sell. But it was a good match. And I love Rick Rude. So I like the fact that they're letting him get some street cred.
I agree. And he's doing his role very well still. The gimmick
works
that perfectly.
He's the OG on the mic when it comes to laying down some of them promo work.
Next was Bad News Brown versus Hogan, which I thought was another entertaining match. And Bad News was actually selling his ass off for Hogan during some parts of this match.
He was, and this ended his winning streak. He was undefeated.
Yeah, that was another big thing. Something I don't know how I feel about it because I mean they're building him for a match with Duggan and then he just gets beat right before WrestleMania.
I hated this for that reason. You don't build the guy up and actually talk about how he's undefeated for so many weeks in a row just to let him go. And I'm not gonna call it job to Hogan because there was a match, but just to let him go break all that momentum in an unnecessary match that you could have put anybody against Hogan right there and let Hogan have a match win. You don't need to put a guy that you've been protecting his record has a big match coming up. I could not agree more, Nick. This was, for me, a really bad booking decision. A fine match. I enjoyed the match. I was okay with it. But I wasn't okay with the match happening. I was okay with the
I
match.
agree.
I wasn't okay with the idea. Whoever decided, let's put this match right here on this card.
Yeah, we're really on the same page because Hogan doesn't need a victory over Bad News to. He's still Hogan, regardless. He could have fought anybody else. You're right.
Yeah, man. Put him against Dangerous Danny. Like but it serves the same purpose. I mean, I get that they're like, okay, it doesn't because Bad News has been undefeated, so he's so tough. So we're making Hogan seem even tougher. But it's unnecessary. You could have done that. You could have put him against like the Boss Man or Akeem. And had that same effect without killing the momentum of a guy that needed the momentum more than Hogan.
There was some interesting symbolism I noticed in the match because at one point, Bad News brings out a shovel like he's being buried by Hogan, which I found funny.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but now that you mentioned it, yeah. And I don't, depending on where we see Bad News go from here, he might be right. He might be about to lose to Duggan because I don't remember Bad News Brown being like a monster the way he was being built up for very long in my actual memory.
I think he'll fall to the mid card after this for sure.
That leg drop.
It'll put people down.
Vicious finisher of all time.
God, I know. Next up was a short match. It was Ted DiBiase and the Blue Blazer. It was an easy win for DiBiase.
Weird finish to this match. I couldn't help but wonder if something had gone wrong during the match because the finish to this match was a power slam. It was like he caught Blue Blazer, went for a crossbody. DiBiase just caught him, power slammed him for the pin. I was real shocked at that finish. I was like,
yeah,
what?
Maybe they were short on time or something.
Yeah. It's something was not, no $1 Million Dream, no missed aerial, moonsault from the Blazer, something like that. But I like these two guys. I mean, they're two legends of the sport. So the nostalgia side of me just like seeing those two guys in the ring together, even if it was short and odd.
Well, next up on the show, we got our soap opera time in with Elizabeth having to make a decision. And Savage is, being his pushy himself. He needs Elizabeth in his corner, trying to force her into it. In the end, though, she chooses neither corner, even though I don't know if that's going to hold up. But
I don't want to say what I know is going to happen. But there may be some neutral corner involved. We'll just say that. There may be a mysterious neutral corner at ringside. I like the format of the interview, I'll say, because Mean Gene was like, "Oh, are you going to be with Hulk Hogan?" And she's like, "No." And then so, everybody flips out. Savage comes out. I knew it, she's staying with me. And then, I want to hear it from her mouth.
Yeah.
And, so it was fun the way they played off that whole dynamic. Pretty predictable. I would have liked to see Elizabeth with Savage but I'm just a Hogan hater, so.
Yeah, we might agree there a little bit, but I mean, I did find this overall probably the most entertaining thing of the month on the show, which isn't saying a lot, but it was.
Yeah, and they had been building it up. They even had the debate the last month with asking whose corner is Elizabeth going to be in. So they've been trying to build this up as a big angle. I don't really like. My brain's like, what the fuck does it matter who corner she's in? She's worthless as a manager. So like, who does it really matter who she's supporting? It's that moral support. So yeah, for what it is, because it's so not important, the fact that they've been able to give it this level of importance, yeah, rock and roll WWF.
Up next was a great match, but another booking decisions that I'm just struggling with. But it was the Rockers and the Brainbusters having another match, a great match all around, fast paced. But we still don't get a winner in this feud, and the feud isn't really continuing. But
no, the interesting part, I agree with everything you just said. fantastic match. But the Rockers are about to go take on the Twin Towers. The Brainbusters are about to go take on Strike Force. And we didn't see either of those teams. Like, it would have made more sense for me if Twin Towers come out, interfere, Rockers lose to the Brainbusters. That would have made more sense than this kind of finish, because then it would have at least progressed your feuds, kept the other feuds in mind. At this point, they just took probably their two best tag teams on a technical standpoint and just said, hey, go at it. And then, you know,
it worked, but like I don't understand why they can't just, you know, do this match at WrestleMania, since they've been building it for 2 months now, at least, if not longer. It could have been 3 or 4. And then you could put Strike Force against the Twin Towers at WrestleMania,
right?
And get the same thing accomplished.
And this was a WrestleMania caliber match, so if you add a different finish to it, you know, it really, that's a WrestleMania caliber match. So I agree. It's weird to have the whole build up to this match, but then feature it on Saturday night's main event and not WrestleMania. I'm 100% with you. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they don't want to put one team over the other, I guess, but it's also something that annoys me in today's wrestling. They like to do the 50-50 booking, where somebody wins this match and then they go to another match and lose, so their wins don't even matter. It's different, but it's the same.
Egos are the downfall of good wrestling, is egos, because I think a lot of guys, and it's human nature, but I think a lot of guys just, their egos get in the way. I mean, they forget that they're playing a part, that this is all just a production. That's why guys like Barry Horowitz are my favorite, because they know their role, as The Rock would say. Like, and there's always going to be somebody bigger up the totem pole. So I really appreciate wrestlers and organizations, which they don't do it enough, where they understand that they're telling a story. It's not always going to be even. Everybody's not going to be the badass. Some people have to be the Red Rooster and the Brooklyn Brawler, you know, like they just, you need tiers. Yeah. And so I feel like there's a lot of that. Like, we want to protect the strength of everybody. We want to make everybody happy. So we're going to do this. And nah, man, just the fans are who you should be trying to please.
The downside of when you protect everybody, like today, I just feel like if you're protecting everybody, everybody's 50-50 booking, nobody's actually gaining anything or getting anywhere.
And that is why today's wrestling landscape doesn't have the Rocks, doesn't have the Austins, it doesn't have the Ric Flairs. The closest thing to that is like Roman Reigns, and that's just because they push him like that. Like, that wasn't even an organic thing that happened with people. So yeah, man, Seth Rollins had a little bit of a run where it could have been like that too, I think, for a little while. And then they were trying to do that, I guess, with, like, I think MJF's got that kind of potential in the future over in AEW. But I feel like a lot of the wrestling production, the companies just, they almost need to let the fans, I hate saying that because there's a lot of weird wrestling fans, but listen to the fans, because that's who's watching your product.
Yeah, they lost fans by not listening to the fans, and now the fans they have left are so, I don't know. Let me stop on my head, because I don't want to be the hill all the time on that.
I said it.
Yeah. Wow, next was the Red Rooster and the Brooklyn Brawler. Bobby the Brain failed. He's going to be taking on the Red Rooster at WrestleMania, which I think is great, because it was my favorite feud of January, as I put. But yes, Brooklyn Brawler loses.
Well, as the start of his great jobber career, losing to Red Rooster. Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't even have to say about this. I'm not a big fan of either of these guys. If Brain wasn't involved, I would literally not care at all. But
now Brain's playground.
Yeah, now that he's got to get in the ring with the Rooster, yeah, I can't. I mean, that'll be entertaining. You know, there's gonna be some shenanigans, but it'll be entertaining. And then I'm predicting a Brain loss. He's going to tap out to that little chicken wing submission of the Rooster. but not before the brawler comes out and tries to,
Probably. I mean, I'm looking a little forward to it just because it's Heenan.
Yeah. It's watching him get in the ring and like, yeah, it's gonna be great.
And to end the show, we got a pissed off Savage in the back throwing things around, which I also thought was great. He almost hurt himself at one point.
He ate shit, great. Bro. He did eat shit at the beginning of that. He was so into it. He was throwing shit off the coat rack, and he just ate shit. But he played it off. He got right back up and just started throwing more shit. Yeah, furthering the Savage angry promo. That's exactly what I read. Savage angry promo. Furthering his heel status.
Well, to sum it up, what was that?
Definitely the best show of March.
Yeah, by far. And I think it also showed that WWF can hang in the wrestling matches when they really want to.
Yeah, without getting too far ahead of myself, because I guess we're kind of almost there. Yeah, total flip for me. Because last month, I actually had all my favorite matches from WCW. And this month, all my favorite matches are from WWF. So they absolutely can hang when they decide that they want to put good wrestlers against good wrestlers. They'll put on good matches. That's just the way it works.
Yeah. So overall, a good show, but booking decisions, I'm lost on some of them.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's see. Anything to talk about these other primetime shows? There really wasn't.
The environment for me, just the environments, the being at the Trump Plaza. It was almost what I said earlier. The prime times are dominated by Bobby the Brain for me. I'd almost rather watch the commentary desk than all the squash matches, because that's all it is squash matches and commentary. But the commentary is far more entertaining.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I hate to keep burying today's product, but it's another thing. I feel like if you strip away this entertainment, we talked about this on the first podcast, and it's kind of just like men's gymnastics if you strip away all the entertainment.
Yeah, no, it is. It's true. Because part of it all is the pageantry. That's part of it all. It's what we like. And so, but I think WWF found a better formula in WCW in general. Yes, because the prime times, when it comes right down to it, the wrestling matches, they're the same as the WCW matches. They're almost all squash matches, not very, pretty lackluster. But WWF has found the formula in between those matches. Have Bobby Brain scalping tickets to WrestleMania. Like he's trying to put in orders, call, and scalp tickets. Just little things make you smile. They make you laugh. And part of wrestling is the suspension of reality. We want to just get away for a little while. It's a soap opera of sorts, and you just kind of want to detach from reality. And I feel like WWF does just a better job of that. We saw Tony Schiavone show up out of the woodwork as well.
Another thing, I don't know if you will agree with this, because I know how you feel about the draws and the countouts and all of that. But I'd rather see two wrestlers going up on these prime times that I know who they are than just see a masked person get squashed on WCW.
I agree. As much as I don't like those finishes, I'd still, at least the matches are good and unpredictable-ish. And just a higher quality. So yeah, no, I agree. As much as I'm not a fan of a lot of those finishes, I'm not a fan of the constant squash matches. I get that you need some, but when half these shows on both sides, half the shows are just squash matches top to bottom.
I would say WCW, it's like 80% of the show.
Yeah. Oh, on some of their shows, it's 100% of the show. And no, WWF too. Both of them have had several shows just in this month. I think they each had 2 shows, I counted, that were top to bottom, nothing but squash matches. Not even a Garvin versus Valentine. They don't even give us that. Beefcake versus Outlaw Ron Bass. They don't even give us that. So yeah, I could do for a little. I agree with you. I could do for a little bit more unpredictability, quality, even if it makes somebody have to lose.
Anything else you want to talk about on these shows? I guess the main event of the March 20th was Bret Hart and Ted DiBiase, but it ended in a double countout. So.
It did. I mean, that was I'm like predictable. But I was glad to see those two in the ring together.
Yeah.
And there was a Tito versus Dino Bravo on that same card, and they're both kind of mid carders.
Yeah, and that's another thing because they're building up.
Also count out.
Yeah, but they're building up the Strike Force reunion. But Tito Santana has been doing nothing well over the past month. In singles matches, he lost a 2-on-1 match to Andre, and then he can't even beat Dino Bravo. So it's like, why?
But they made him lose by count out to try to keep him a little strong. How cliche. Exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, man. I mean, but at least we get those matches on WWF. Yeah. WCW wasn't even giving us that this month.
They don't give us anything.
And so I appreciate the Tito versus Dinos and the Harts versus DiBiase's, even if they have lackluster finishes.
Well, what did you score WWF this month? I gave it slightly higher. I gave it 7.9 last month. I put it up to an 8.0 just because I did enjoy Saturday Night's main event, even if the booking was stupid.
It's funny that I think we scored them the same, and I scored them 8.1 this month, and I think we had them the same last month. So I think we kept it pretty close again. I actually moved them up. I think I had them at a 7.9, if I remember. I did. And then I have them at an 8.1. I thought it was a little bit of an upgrade. We got to see a lot of the Mega Power stuff. Brain is great as usual. And part of it, I think, is WCW just looks so bad that it makes WWF look even better.
I couldn't agree more. It gets an 8.05. Wins third month in a row. Probably on its way to a fourth.
Ain't no stopping them.
Well, let's go with our top tag teams of the month.
Tag teams.
For number 3, I decided to put the Samoan SWAT team. I feel like they're the only team on WCW this month that was getting any kind of push with Paulie, so I put them at number 3.
I surprisingly, you're not going to expect this one from me. My third tag team this month was Gilbert and Steiner.
Wow.
Even though I hate the pairing, they had some success. They won a title. We didn't see a lot of. I don't think in my opinion, we didn't see a lot of quality tag team action on either side. Short of the next few teams, we probably both have it 1 and 2. So for me, it was the third one was definitely the hardest one to pick, and I could have gone anyway. I could have gone with SWAT team. It was tough. This one was tough for third, but I went with Gilbert and Steiner.
Yeah, I agree with that. They probably did get that the bigger push than the Samoan SWAT team. I guess kind of forgot about them. I guess
the Samoan SWAT team was featured more though, and they had more squash matches. They got with Paulie, so I agree with your decision. I mean, I'm fine with you. I wouldn't disagree with your choice at all on that, because I just feel like there's a lot of groups that could fall into that third spot. They were just
it's true. Assuming our 1 and 2 are the same teams, I just know if they're in the same order. I put Brainbusters first, Rockers second.
I have them in the opposite order, but I do have them at 1 and 2. I have Rockers at 1, Brainbusters at 2.
I think for me, I just had the Brainbusters. I think they went from 3-2 to 1 in my standings, so I figured why not.
Yeah, I mean, those two again, I couldn't agree more. I feel like they're interchangeable. At least for this month, I could have gone either way with those two. They both were featured in several matches. They both were made to look very strong, and they both have momentum going into Mania.
We shall do matches next. I know you said you have all WWF.
I do.
I was going to. I decided to put, even though it was more for the story for me than the actual match, I put the Wyndhams versus Luger and Michael Hayes at number 3 just because of the heel turn by Michael Hayes, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that because that's obviously a big storyline that's about to happen in WCW. One of the few that they have. So it takes utmost importance when it's one of the very few things you even have going. So I don't disagree with that. I put Rick Rude versus Brutus Beefcake at number 3. I just liked the fact that they got all the storylines into that one match from Heenan's boys. I thought it was a decent match for two underachieving wrestlers historically. I mean, Rude's pretty good in the ring, but Beefcake's not, and they held their own. They made it look like a good match.
Who did you have number 2, or what match?
Got DiBiase and Hart. Probably nostalgia may have played a big role in this ranking on this one. But it was just one of the matches that stuck out this month. Obviously, all my favorite matches were from the Saturday Night's Main Event. And again, this might have just been based on their legend status in my brain, like two legends, two legit legends. I just almost felt obligated to put them on this list.
Yeah, I kind of felt obligated to put number 2 is Hogan and Bad News Brown, despite the bad booking decision to bury Bad News before his match at WrestleMania. The match was good.
That's the sole thing that kept it off my list. And that was, I had my number 2, 3, and 4 matches, which were DiBiase and Hart, Rude and Beefcake, and then I had Hogan and Brown. But for me, all 3 of those were interchangeable. The reason I left Hogan and Brown off my list was simply because I don't like Hogan, and I really don't like what they did to Bad News. And that it just, I was like, no. So
I agree with that.
Little bitter on that one. So that's why I left it off my list. I was just bitter.
I assume we both have
number 1. I know we have the same number 1.
Rockers and Brainbusters. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of good tag team wrestling in these 3 months, so this was definitely the best tag team wrestling match so far.
Yeah, I think it's the first tag team match that makes our. Well, I mean, you have 2 on this month, but I think before this month we didn't have any tag team matches as our.
We might have the first month. I don't know if you did, but I think I had.
You had Heart Foundation, and but that was a 6-man, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was the Steamboat and Eddie Gilbert versus Flair and.
Oh, that was a good one.
Wyndham.
Wyndham, I did have that one too. Yeah. Okay, never mind. But yeah, the tag team scene has just been super lackluster.
It has been.
Teams at the top of the mountain. Like, if you noticed, I didn't talk about Demolition or the Road Warriors on this list this week, and those are the 2 champs.
Well, Road Warriors were also in Japan, so that's why we didn't even see them. But Demolition, yeah, I've been down on Demolition from the start of this. Let's go to feuds. My number 3, I didn't know who to put in this feud with Michael Hayes, but since I enjoyed the turn, I just put Hayes and Luger at number 3, even though I don't even know if that's the main feud because WCW isn't building anything.
Yeah, my 3rd feud I put here for the purpose that I know it's still a major feud. And even though we didn't see a lot of it this month, it's carrying that company. So I have Steamboat and Flair hanging on at number 3.
I put Flair and Steamboat at number 2 this month.
I have Andre and the Snake at number 2. I just like a lot of their little dynamics. Andre selling the Snake stuff, the Big John Studd stepping in. Just it's a fun feud for me. So
yeah, this is the first time it didn't make my list, but I have enjoyed it all around. And I assume we both have Hogan and Savage at number 1.
As much as I don't like Hogan, it's a pretty no-brainer when the Mega Powers are about to break up in the very near future. It's hard to not say it's and you have half your shows revolving around other superstars talking about it.
True.
It's tough to not have it at number 1.
Yeah, definitely number 1. Let's see superstars. I don't have Flair again, but who is your number 3?
This is the first month he didn't make my list. I have all WWF guys again. I have DiBiase at number 3. They unveiled the $1 million belt. He had a few good wins. He had a few matches with big superstars. So thought it was a good month for the $1 million man.
Once again, my lone WCW thing revolves around Michael Hayes, so I put him at number 3 just because it was the main storyline for WCW this month, really.
Yeah. Bad Street, Atlanta, PA. Bad Street, USA.
I just hope I don't see him breakdancing in the near future. That seems to be the WCW thing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got, if he teams up with old Vincent. Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna like my number 2, but I could not put. I had to make Hogan finally make my list. I put him at number 2. He's about to have a good WrestleMania, we'll say. So he's at my number 2.
He had a very successful month. Featured a lot too. My number 2 is Rick Rude. I feel like they've been pushing the shit out of him. They're building up his strength. He has, as you said earlier in the show, he has a couple wins over some name guys, which is more than you could say for almost anybody in either organization this month. So I just feel like Rick Rude's stock is right now.
Are we gonna have another same number 1? Who is your number 1?
No, I know that because surprisingly, my number 1 was your number 2. I just felt like Hogan had so much airtime, so much is revolving around him right now, that I couldn't see anybody. I just couldn't, like, as much as it does pain me to do that. It's what they revolved half their shows around. So it's really hard for me to not do that. So I'm really curious as to who your number 1 is.
Well,
the first time I can't guess. Like
whether the Hulkamaniacs or the Pukamaniacs want to agree or not, I think Macho Man is carrying the side of the feud. So far.
All right, yeah, I get behind that.
And he's another person that went up my list over these months. I think he was also 3, 2, and 1. So
yeah, I mean, we do feuds, but realistically, yeah, I could have gone either way with that, like, because it's both those guys. They're featured. They're just. Yeah, I love it. And I prefer Macho Man.
Yeah, me too. Well, that wraps up another month, another win for the WWF. George Scott is about to get his ass fired, though, at least. So hopefully WCW starts some sort of turn. I've been saying that for episodes now.
You had been saying it, though, but now you looked it up. You know when it's happening. So we can expect, knock on wood, hopefully good things to come after Clash of Champions.
Yes, I am hoping for that. And we will once again see if we have a foreign heel on the show next month or not. In time for WrestleMania versus Clash of Champions, but I'm worried about Clash of Champions.
I'm not holding my breath for this next Clash of Champions. I'll just say that. I am not holding my breath on this one.
I thought I looked it up. Is this the Clash of Champions that is Ragin' Cajun?
I do.
Because I remember that name, so I'm hoping that means it's good.
I mean, if they fired Homeboy right after it can't be, right?
Although he was fired for not promoting the card.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hope I'm pleasantly surprised, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, me either. It is Ragin' Cajun, though. I don't know if I just remember that because I like the title. If it's named after you,
man. That's where I went to school. You already know. Ragin' Cajuns. Bobby Boucher represent.
Well, fan guy, thank you as always. I will see you for April.
Yes, sir.